So, what am I really here to talk about? Successful investors and what the difference is between them and the 80% of people who join this group and never reach their goals. That is a depressing number, isn't it? 20% of people who join a REIA group or go to a boot camp or invest in a home study course or reach their goals. The other 80% in some way or another do not reach them. Now some of that 80%, they do something, they make some money. But they don't get what they came in thinking they were going to get. So that thing where, look to your right, look to your left, and only one of you's got, no, you have to also look in front of you and behind you. Statistically, only 1 out of every 5 people fully reaches their goals in real estate. That's terrible. It's a terrible number. It's so depressing. You should all just go home and cry right now. Because really, what are the chances, right? So, but what we're going to do tonight is we're going to explore what the 20% have. And you will be pleased to know that it's not anything they were born with. It's not extraordinary intelligence, it's not crazy amounts of ambition, it's not, they're not, better looking than you, probably. It's not about age, it's nothing having to do with that. It's stuff that you can actually control if you understand, if you can see clearly what it is, and you can understand how to get it working for you instead of against you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of give you a blueprint of how to get these things, and with kind of one exception, most of them are not real estate related. Most of them are not financially related. Most of them are personally related, right? Because you all know it's something not about the REIA group or about the education. Because it can't be, because if it were 100% would fail or 100% would succeed, right? It's something about the individual people, yes? So we're going to talk about how to get those things and how REIA can help you in your quest for these things during this year. Now, we're probably, and if I could get my phone up here so I have a timer, we're probably going to run 5 minutes late tonight. Is that 5-10 minutes? Is that going to be okay for everybody? Okay. And we all agree that we're not going to start getting up and stepping over each other to leave, right? I'm going to give information out with both hands. Talk as fast as I can, but I gave this presentation in Columbus 2 days ago, and I know it's going to go to Minnesota because we did there. So let me tell you how I got interested in this subject, because I am really interested in this subject. Like, I am constantly reading and researching and studying the psychology of success and personal motivation and habits. And can we get one of these fundamental flyers out to everyone, please? And to the other ones too. One big reason, of course, is I'm a real estate investor. And for the last 25 years, I've always wanted, I've always had bigger and bigger goals, right? I started out thinking, I want to be a millionaire. And I got there and it's like, well, $1 million just isn't what it used to be. And then it was, I want to have a business that's buying and selling a deal every week. And then, this year we were trying to double that number, trying to double the number of deals that we've done over the last couple of years. So getting from zero to doing some deals is one kind of step. Getting from doing some deals to doubling those deals is another kind of step. So yes, I'm very interested for my own personal reasons in how people succeed at their goals. The second piece of this has been, I've been on or around the board of this group for 20 years. And I also have a group in Columbus, very similar to this one. And I've just watched for years and years and years where people came in that I really thought had everything going for them. Thought they had the drive, thought they had the brains, thought they had, they'd gotten the basic education they needed. And nothing happened. And I've seen other people come in that I'm like, I would not trust that guy to walk my dog. He would probably step in front of a moving car if I let him do that. He just is not the sharpest knife in the box. Who 5 years later is a real estate millionaire, And sort of seeing things that you don't expect amongst members, and in addition to that, just all the discussions we've had over the years on the board about how do we get people off their butts to do stuff. How do we're giving them, we think we're giving them everything we can, how do we give them even more? And for the last 15 years I've been an educator, which means I've been going to real estate associations all over the United States and seeing that the same thing is happening everywhere. So I'm the person who's selling you the education that if you would just do what I tell you to do will make you the money you want to make, and then watching people not do it, no matter how dumb I make it, right? Do A, B, C, D, and E, and watching people apparently unable to get to E. So this has just been a passion of mine, just through all of the exposure that I've had to it. And what it has shown me is that most people just don't achieve their real estate goals. And any group leader will tell you that anywhere in the country. Any guru who's being honest will tell you that. That most people do not achieve the goals they set out to achieve. Now here's the thing. When we have these discussions, when we're talking about how do we help members be more successful, or how do we get students to do what they're supposed to do, the question of why are they not succeeding always comes up. And there's always a certain set of answers that come out of that. Like there's things that people think keep people from being successful in real estate. What do you think some of those things are? Personality? Procrastination? Fear?
Priorities.
Don't take action? Yeah, fear is usually the first one that comes out. Family? All of those answers always felt really unsatisfying to me. And yet they are always the ones that you hear. People don't succeed because of fear. People don't succeed because they just don't want it bad enough. People don't succeed because they're not willing to, or they don't have the willpower, right? They just can't stick to it. People don't succeed because they're not willing to do the work. All of that stuff seems kind of like successful people looking down at unsuccessful people and saying, well, I had all of this stuff and you didn't, right? And what really bugged me about these was in thinking through examples of people that I knew that hadn't succeeded, it's just not true. Here, let me show you. How many of you did at least one deal in 2015? Okay, about 20% of the room. Huh, look at that. All right, keep your hands up if you did at least one deal in 2015. Now, if you were not terrified when you did your first deal, put your hand down. In other words, if you were terrified when you did your first deal, leave your hand up. Every hand is still up. Oh, except for one. So what does this tell us? People can be afraid and still do stuff. Right? So it's not about fear. It's about somehow being able to be afraid and still do it. Right? I have seen many people who really worked. Like they were seriously focused on their real estate business. They were doing stuff. They were doing stuff 4 or 5 days a week. Now, to be honest, a lot of them, what they were doing was attending seminar after seminar after seminar, which does not tend to make deals. But, I would see them getting out marketing, taking phone calls, talking to sellers, but somehow it still never came together. Right? And they eventually ended up dropping out because they just got frustrated because they could never seem to pull a deal together. So none of these answers can be the right answer because there are people who do work really hard who don't make it. There are people who are afraid who do make it. Did I see Walter Cherry in here?
He's back there.
Walter, would you say you're like a super hard worker? And he's one of the most successful short sale investors in the Cincinnati area. You heard what he said, right? He said, no, he's not. So I've also seen people who are just kind of like, yeah, the deal falls in my lap and it's a no-brainer and the seller basically does it for me, I guess I'll do it. And that's Walter, right? So there's something else going on. So as I talk about this, talk to people dropping out of REIAs, talk to people who were successful, talk to group leaders from all over the country, did all of this stuff. And it finally dawned on me about 3 years ago that the problem isn't that people aren't good at becoming successful real estate investors. The problem is people aren't good at reaching any goal. I mean, you gotta put this in the same category as losing 20 pounds. Right? You gotta put this in the same category as mastering, fill in the blank. Mastering the piano, mastering martial arts, mastering topiary trimming, I don't know, whatever it is, we're just not real good at reaching positive goals. Now what we are good at is reaching is inertial change, okay? Anything that requires us to change and that change requires us to push against something, we're not great at. If we're changing in the sense that we're just keep continuing to do what we do, and that will make you change. If you continue to eat like you're eating, what will happen? If you continue to not work out, you will change. It just won't be a good change. We're good at inertial change. We're good at gaining weight. I am such an expert on gaining weight. If they paid me to teach classes, it's easy to be more broke, right? It's easy to be more in debt. In fact, that our entire culture sort of pushes you toward these things, right? If you just sort of lay back and let the waves of the culture carry you, you're going to be more in debt. You're encouraged all the time to get more credit cards and more stuff. Eat more junk food. Having less positive relationships is easy, right? Having your relationships with people degrade is easy. Don't like your husband? Just stop talking to him. That's what I did. It took me like 2 years to figure it out, but the thing that we have trouble with is positive change, right? It's pushing against something. So losing weight, improving our relationships, getting out of debt. You know, ever notice it's a lot easier to gain weight and get into debt than it is to lose weight and get out of debt? Building a successful business, getting rich, because things are pushing back at us in these arenas. So I started studying habits and willpower and discipline and success psychology, and I'm going to give you some books if you would like to read the source material from which this is coming. Immunity to Change by a couple of, I believe they're Yale professors, could be Harvard, Keegan and Leahy. I will warn you that that book is an academic book. Lots of charts and graphs and not user-friendly. However, is everybody signed up for edX? Y'all know what edX is, EDX? Ivy League colleges all over I guess they're only Ivy League if they're in the US, but top colleges all over the world give free classes online, free college level classes online, and it's through edX.com. And these guys do a class on this about every other quarter that's free. It's a free class that's much more understandable than the book is. A more understandable book that is kind of along the same lines is called Change Anything. What both of these are about is why it is hard to change. What is difficult about changing. The Power of Habit, you'll be able to find this in any bookstore. It's by a guy whose last name is Duhigg. And Willpower, Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength by Baumeister. These two were both bestsellers in the last couple of years, so you won't have any trouble finding those. And I continued while I was reading these and understanding more about habits and willpower and so on, to observe people who really make it, and make it quickly, right? Who don't take 30, 40 years to become millionaires, versus those who just seem to be on the slow track. There's REIA members who succeed and those who don't, and I'm going to share some of the things I learned with you. So, we're talking about what successful investors have, so let's start by imagining a successful investor. Let us say that he has been in the business for 10 years. He has $1 million in assets. In other words, he's got $1 million in equity somehow, right? He owes $1 million less than what his assets are worth. And those assets could be houses, apartments, mobile home, parks, notes, you know. Those assets generate $10,000 a month in passive income. And he has a business another real estate business, that generates $20,000 a month in active income, in other words, flipping income. Right? So that's the income that you gotta go do another deal to get more of it. Where the passive income, you can just kind of keep what you have and you'll get $10,000 a month. So, what does this guy have that you don't have? You got money, yeah. Knowledge systems. You don't have drive? Yeah, but do you not have drive? Yeah, I'm saying, what does he have that you don't have? Because everybody in this room has drive, or they would not have taken their Thursday night and sat in this room. Right? You don't have drive. That's the one thing that pretty sure you all have in common. I would say that he's got these things. Number one, he's got passive investments, which he clearly built over the course of 10 years. He did not wake up one morning with $1 million worth of passive investments. So this was something he built over time. He has lots of deals coming to him. If he is making $20,000 a month flipping properties, he has deal flow of some sort. Right? He's not waking up in the morning and seeing what deeds were shoved under his door overnight by people he'd never met before. He's doing something to get deals. He's got access to money, and I don't mean his $1 million. I mean like somebody else is financing these deals for him. He's got a good team. I guarantee he's not doing this all by himself. And of course, he has this high income that has come from largely his active business. What is he doing every day that you are not doing? Imagine his life. Imagine, what do you think when he wakes up in the morning, goes through his day, how does his day look different than your day? He probably has it planned out. He what? He's got some time management skills probably, although I gotta tell you, you ask people who are at this level what their organization and time management skills are like, and they say they suck. Now the truth is they're 10 times better than most people's, but they still feel like they suck. You never get to that point where you're like, I am perfectly prioritizing everything, and I'm getting everything done that I ever want to get done. That day just doesn't come. They're spending more time doing important stuff than they are doing unimportant stuff. I promise you that. All right, it's more basic than this, folks. What is this guy doing? He is talking to sellers every day. What else is he doing? He's making offers every day. What else is he doing? He's delegating and managing his team every day. What else? How's he getting to talk to these sellers? He's marketing every day. You know the answers. You know what a successful real estate investor does every day. Now, you may not be 100% sure on the implementation, but you know the answers. He's talking to sellers, he's evaluating deals, he's managing, his business, he's supervising his team, he's doing the stuff that real estate investors do. You've heard this a million times if you've been around this group for more than 6 months. Here's the big question. Clearly, this seems to a lot of you like something that's hard to do. Because otherwise I assume you'd be doing it and you would have the $1 million and $30,000 a month in income. How hard do you think he perceives this to be? Probably not hard at all. So why is it, it's exactly the same activity. You would need to do exactly the same thing. Why is it easy for him and hard for you? Because he has done it so many times that it is a what? Yeah, what do we call it when you engage in a fairly complex activity without really having to think about it too much? It's called a habit, right? It's called a habit. And one of the things that this guy has that you don't have is a lot of success habits. A lot of success habits. Now, let's talk a little bit about the science behind habits, because I know I'm going to break some hearts when I say this. But you know that thing that we have been told our entire lives since we were little children about how it takes 21 days to make or break a habit? Guess what? Total and complete BS. Made up. No science behind it whatsoever. The truth is, you never really lose a habit. If you were trying to break a habit, it is always still there. What you were trying to do is overwrite it, but the second you slip back to the, okay, who's ever quit smoking and then started again? How does that happen? Oh, I'm never going to smoke again, right? I quit for 2 years and I only have to pick up 1 cigarette. And that's the cue, and the habit just, it's right there. It's right where it was, right? So let's talk about the actual science about this. If you take a rat and you drop it into a maze it has never seen before, and you put some chocolate at the end, right? Put a diet of truffle at the end. I know, right? The rat is eventually going to find the truffle. Now, the first time it does it, it runs into walls and it tries reversing and scratching the wall, and its brain activity, if you stick 150 little electrodes in its brain, you do not want to know how that happens if you were an animal lover, but that's how they do it. Stick 150 electrodes into its frontal cortex. What you will see is this. This big spike is where he gets dropped into the maze. So new things happen. Something's going on, I should do something. This big spike is when he gets the chocolate. Everything in between is all him trying stuff, okay? And this is what learning looks like. Look how active his brain is. This is what learning looks like. Keep dropping that same rat into that same maze over and over and over again. And on the 150th try, this is what his brain looks like. This is the drop in the maze. This is the chocolate. Everything in through here is exactly what you would see if that rat were asleep. There's literally no conscious thought going on whatsoever. The only thoughts are happening at the cue and the reward. The activity itself is not happening. Now, do we do that? Anybody here ever driven to work and then wondered how you got there? That is a complex activity. I mean, you can be on the road for like 40 minutes and get to work, and it's kind of a scary feeling, like, right? Like, was I a danger to my fellow drivers during that time? No, your brain doesn't need to expend any energy because it knows exactly where to go. It can be thinking about other things. A habit consists of a cue, followed by a routine, which in the case of the rat is running through the maze, followed by a reward. The cue is external. The behavior is unconscious. And if the reward doesn't come off often enough, the habit dies, right? Which is an important thing to remember as we talk about things that unsuccessful investors do that successful investors don't do. So, when you're talking to sellers, evaluating properties, and structuring deals as a new investor, this is what your brain looks like. It's hard because you're learning your brain's like really active and it's learning every step of the way. The successful investor who's done it 8 other times, it is really unconscious. Phone rings, I start talking to a seller, I can pretty much shut my brain off, and then the reward is what? The chocolate, yeah. Yes, our successful investor weighs 400 pounds. He rewards himself with chocolate. A researcher from Harvard, whose name was Wanda, oh gosh, what's her last name? I'm so bad with names and faces. Followed 1,000 college students around for like a year and just sort of tried to evaluate how much of their activities every day were consciously driven and how much of them were habits. And 40 to 45% of it was habit. It was habit. 40 to 45% of your day you're not thinking about what you're doing. Which means if you want to have success habits, you have to intentionally set up a cue and a routine and a reward until it becomes a habit, right? So what do they say if you want to start exercising every morning? What do they say to do? Well, say your alarm is a good first step. They tell you to have your gym clothes really near the bed, right? So that you just get out of bed, the gym clothes are there. And that's your cue, right? I get up in the morning, oh yeah, there's my running shoes, I gotta go jog, right? Now, interestingly, there was a study about joggers. And they took this big group of joggers and they took 1/3 of them and said, after you run, you are to eat chocolate. I guess they didn't, tell them about the rats. And you are to reward yourself with a piece of chocolate. 6 months later, the ones who rewarded themselves after they ran, and that seems kind of like counterintuitive, right? Because I just ran to get rid of calories, and now I'm eating a chocolate at the end. The people who ate chocolate were 58% more likely to still be jogging. And they were very likely not to be eating the chocolate anymore. Why? Because they didn't, the reward became the way they felt after they ran, right? The word became, I'm in good shape, I'm skinny, I'm feeling good, I'm energetic. So you might want to think about some rewards for yourself for doing what you know you need to do, what you've already shown me you know you need to do real estate deals. So all you have to do is develop these success habits, so good night, thank you. Yeah, if only, right? And I will outline them for you and you can go home and become a successful real estate investor. Not quite. See, here's the thing. Our successful investor has these habits, but obviously he did not have them 10 years ago when he started. He was one of a number of people who started at the same time, right? In fact, there were probably 6, 8 people that he joined REIA with the night he joined. And he's still around and they're not. So the question is, how did he get from faceless newbie to successful investor? While these other people are, like, no one even remembers their name anymore. They're not around. Don't see them anymore. And let's just make the assumption that all of these people were within the bell curve of having access to real estate education. And they're all REIA members. They come to every meeting. They come to 8 meetings a month and take stuff out of the library and come to the Saturday sessions, all that stuff. So assume they have roughly equal intelligence. They probably all had success in some other area of their life, right? They weren't complete losers. I mean, almost everybody has something that they can point to and say, yeah, I killed that. So they probably had some success somewhere, and let's assume they all had the desire to change their lives. They were all pushing the same rock up the same hill, yes? I mean, they were all trying to accomplish the same thing. So the question is, what did he have that they didn't? And I'm going to tell you what he had that they didn't, and that is that he set up his life to make rolling the rock easier. We all have the same rock to push. The question is, are we setting up the rest of our lives so that the rock is nice and, round and the hill's not too big, or are we setting up so we got stuff pushing back on us? My personal coach, my success coach, said to me once, it's like, for most people, it's like they're pushing the rock, but there's a wall on the other side of the rock that they can't even see. And it's not just that they're trying to push the rock, they're trying to push it through a wall. And if you get the wall out of the way, the rock is a lot easier to move. So how do you get the wall out of the way? Tell you number one, he had a plan. I have yet to meet a successful investor who did not start out with a plan. He had specific short, medium, and long-term financial goals. When I say specific, I mean in the first 6 months, I want to earn $50,000 cash so that I can pay off my credit cards, pay off my car, whatever, you put together a nest egg, whatever. In 3 years, I want to own 5 rental properties and be doing 1 deal a month. Real specific, with numbers attached, goals. That's called a business plan. That's different than New Year's resolutions, and it's different than goals. If your business plan says, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds and stop smoking, you don't have a business plan, you have a set of goals, which is also good, but it's not the same thing, because a business plan is going to include things like, how much marketing am I going to do? Are you about to ask me where to get a business plan?
No.
Oh.
I'm getting ready to say, I think there's something that starts before this, and that's the hunger and the motivation inside of you that drives you to want to do that.
We're getting there. Don't worry. We're getting there. That's actually next. How many of you are in Express Success? Okay, so all of you received, when you joined the program, a business plan template for real estate investors that is so easy to use because it's just a series of questions. It's what's your exit strategy going to be? What kind of marketing are you going to do? What neighborhoods you're going to focus on? All that kind of stuff. And if you just answered the questions, you basically had a business plan when you were done. How many of you actually bothered to do that? Sergio has. Can I suggest you dig that back up and do it now? Because this is something that successful investors have, because it gives them something to measure where they are against. Right? If I said I want to own 5 rental properties by the end of 2017, and it's the beginning of 2017 and I have 0, I got some catching up to do, right? It gives me a measure. The other thing that I guarantee the successful investor had is a specific action plan. So there's like the goals. I want to have this many properties, but then there's the plan. What am I going to do every day to get that? What do I need to do on a weekly basis? What do I need to do on a monthly basis? I also promise you that he reviews these. Writing plans, stick it in the drawer, not going to be any good whatsoever. Don't be afraid to write a plan because you're afraid you're like doing it wrong. I'm gonna shoot too big and then I'm gonna miss it. So revise it. Who cares? Companies revise business plans all the time. He had a plan. This guy over here didn't make a plan. Didn't really quite know. He knew he wanted to be rich, but didn't really quite know what that meant. Wasn't sure what to pursue to do it. And he dropped out of REIA pretty quickly because I think he forgot to plan to come to meetings and just missed them. So, you need to set your financial goals, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And you need to sketch out the steps to reaching them. What exit strategies are you going to use? How many deals are you going to need? What kind of marketing are you going to do? How much marketing are you going to do? I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this because I know Jim's going to spend time on it in the workshop a week from Saturday. And really, you need a day to these things through. So to get what he has, create your action plan as well. How many of you really know what you need to do next week to reach your goals this month? Like you've got to outline, I got to do A, B, C, I know you guys do. I got to do A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, how are you planning on getting that done if you haven't even planned what it is? You're just hoping it'll happen? You're hoping you're going to find 20 hours in your week next week that's never been there before? You've got to have an action plan. What milestones do you need to reach? And again, review the plan every week. And thank you for coming. How many of you gotten this far? How many of you have at least written down some plan, you just haven't quite been able to make it happen? All right. I was just handed a note that said, plans are useless, planning is crucial. Dwight D. Eisenhower. All right, so seriously, go to Jim's workshop on the 16th. It's only $99. I know you're like, oh no, I want to go to a workshop about how to buy real estate. This is more important. It's more important than how to buy real estate. Create yourself a business plan, and again, remember to review it. Now, our successful investor obviously did more than that because half the people in the room just admitted that they have done this and they haven't reached that point. So, what else? He understood that creating the plan and then just being really determined to follow it, which is how most of us start our year, right? This year I'm really going to follow my plan, isn't going to work. It never works. It doesn't work for weight loss. It doesn't work for quitting smoking. Willpower cannot stand up in the face of lack of ability. You know, all the determination in the world, if you don't know what you're doing, good luck. It will not stand up against negative social pressure, and it will not stand up against an environmental structure that does not encourage good behavior and discourage bad behavior. When you want to lose weight, the first thing you do is empty your shelves of all of the stuff that is not good for you or that you know you're going to binge on, right? Because you want to discourage bad behavior. That's what I did. First of the year, all potato chips out of the house. Because it doesn't matter how much willpower I think I have. There's going to be one night when I come home after a hard day and I'm going to see those potato chips and there will be no potato chips an hour later. So the thing to do is go home and open the cabinet and see carrots, right? Encourage good behavior, discourage bad behavior. He set up his life to make these sources work for him. We do not live in a vacuum. If we did, you know, if it was just us and nobody else was affecting us in any way, nothing else was affecting us, willpower would be great. We'd work just fine. But the truth is, there are 6 sources that either help or hinder us. They fall into the categories of motivation and ability. They further fall into personal, social, and environmental. So you need to have on your side personal motivation and personal ability. Personal motivation is, I don't know why that came up first. Do I want to do it? Personal motivation is, do I want to do it? You may as well wait a second before you take the picture because there's going to be 6 things up here in a minute. Do I want to do it? And then ability is, can I do it? Do I have the ability to do it, right? Social motivation is, do they want me to do it? They being the people in your life that you spend the most time with. Do they want me to do it? And social ability is, can they help me to do it? Can they actually add to the reaching of my goals? Environmental motivation is rewards. Now, generally, the reward in doing a real estate deal is what? The money, right? You don't have to walk out of closing with a $10,000 check and have a piece of chocolate. Because you have the $10,000 check, right? So you can buy a lot of chocolate for that. The environmental ability is the control of your space. Do you have space that makes it easy for you to do what you need to do. Makes it easy for you to work. These are never neutral. None of these 6 things are like, well, you know, neither one. It's not positive, it's not negative. It is either pushing the rock with you or it is pushing against you. So what our successful investor has done, and many times I think this is unconscious. I don't know that a lot of people think this through fully and like really arrange it the way I'm going to tell you to arrange it. I think sometimes people just get lucky that their habits are such that they get a lot of stuff out of their way. Personal motivation. Do you want it? How many of you want it? How many of you want real estate success? You want it? Yeah. Want it? All right. Do you want it bad enough to go through what it's going to take to get there? Oh man, I don't seem so sure this time. Who wants it bad enough to really work for it? You want it bad enough to really work for it? Good, because you are going to work for it. Do you have a why that is going to get you through the times when this is boring, frustrating, unproductive, unpleasant? Because that's going to happen. There's going to be times when just nothing's going your way. There's going to be times when you make 50 offers in a row and none of them get accepted. There are going to be times when some seller calls you up and yells at you on the phone because you dared to send them a letter through the U.S. Post Office, and now they're going to report you to the FBI. And if you haven't had that crazy call yet, you just aren't doing enough marketing. Because there's always one. Here's the thing. Spending some time focusing on your why is going to get you through what unsuccessful investors cannot get through. Which is, yes, partially the fear, but it's also the boringness. I mean, there's sometimes when you're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, you're like, oh my God, I want to go have a beer and watch the Bengals game.
One day.
You gotta keep doing what you need to do though, right? So you need a why that every time you look at it, it gets you excited. I want to be a millionaire is not a why. That is so uninspiring. I want to be rich. I want to win the lottery. It's $700 million now. Our success investors' why is a strong, good why. It's something like, I want to stay home with my kids, or I have a passion for other cultures and I want to go live in, I don't just want to travel, I want to go live in other countries for 6 months at a time. Or I want to contribute to my community. I interviewed a guy on the radio yesterday. His why is, he's a race car addict. He loves racing. And he wants to be able to spend $1 million a year on racing. Apparently it's an expensive sport, especially if you don't win. So he wants to be able to spend $1 million a year on racing and not even think about it. This guy over here, his why was like, well, you know, I've got a really good job and they give me really good benefits, they pay me well, but it's so stupid. I hate my job. My boss is annoying. And somehow he was not able to do what needed to be done to get out of that job, because how inspiring is it to say, I want to quit my job? Yeah, it needs to be something that excites you. It needs to be something that every time you look at it, you remember why it is that you need to do what you need to do. So really you need to write out a vision of what your life's going to look like when you are successful. And this, by the way, this vision is not going to have any dollar figures in it. It's not going to say I'm going to have $1 million. $1 million is not inspiring. What my life looks like when I have $1 million is inspiring. I'm highly educated. I take all the college classes I feel like taking. I travel the world. I have, healthy, happy, well-adjusted children. Those are things that you're really after, not the money. Read it every morning. I kid you not. You will, it's so easy, like you think you've got it memorized, and it's so easy to just go, yeah, I'm driving to work, I'll just think about it. No, I want you to get it out and I want you to read it every single day. Every single day. Because that's what successful investors do, is they keep it in front of them. Why am I doing all of this? Second thing is personal ability. Do you know how to make money in real estate? I mean, it's awfully hard to make money in this business if you don't know why it works the way it works, why it is the #1 wealth builder in the United States, and has been for like 150 years. You can't do it if you don't know how to do it. If you're out there with like half an education, or you're going to try and figure it out for yourself. I love it when I talk to people like, no, I'm not going to join REIA, I'll just go out and figure it out for myself. What? I don't want to spend $197. Oh my God, please do not come anywhere near my business. Because the best case scenario is you don't know what you're doing, so you do a lot of work and it never comes to anything. You just wasted a bunch of time. The best case scenario is you just don't do anything. Most common scenario is you waste a lot of time, but there's a worst case scenario here, and that is that because you don't know what you're doing, you do a bad deal, and bad deals aren't just going to hurt you. They're often going to hurt your seller, your lender, your contractor. You're going to leave a trail of tears behind you. So in real estate, the way we get personal ability is, of course, through education. And our successful investor, I guarantee you, every single one that you got to will say, yep, here's the courses I took when I started. They will all have a list. I went to this one, and this one, and this one, and I went and did some deals. And this gal over here tried to learn it on the internet, never was able to quite put together the pieces, and she is gone now. So, I'm going to give you a quiz. You need to be able to answer all of these questions in order to say you know enough to be doing this business. Number 1, if I point out any particular property in the tri-state area, can you definitively tell me what it is worth fixed up in a reasonably short period of time? You're allowed to have your computer, and buy it. Do you have to value every property in the tri-state area memorized, or don't you? Yeah, but the question is, do you know where to look, right? The question is, can you say with some confidence, yeah, this should be worth somewhere between A and B are not $25,000 apart? Okay. Second thing is, do you really understand, like really, and not just that you've heard it or people have said this, do you really understand why sellers who sell at an under market price do it willingly and cheerfully? Because if you don't, I'm not quite sure how you approach sellers without feeling bad, right? If you feel like you're forcing people to do something they don't want to do, I wouldn't want to be in that business. But that's not what you're doing. And if you don't have a real grasp on why these sellers do what they do, you need a little bit more education. If I dropped you into New Orleans, Louisiana, and said you have to do a deal in the next month or I'm killing your entire family, I'd say, deal. Would? You know, there is somebody out there who would pay $100,000 for that program. And then another $100,000 keep me from killing their family. So it's a no-lose scenario. Could you fully implement 3 marketing programs in a strange city to start bringing deals to you? Okay, some of you could. That's good. Do you understand why it is sometimes better for the seller for him to let you make payments to him? I mean, I know you understand why it's better for you to make payments than to pay cash, but do you understand why it's sometimes better for the seller to let that happen? Like 3 of you understand that, all right? You need to go to the next creative finance class in August. Can you tell a seller that you want to pay less than what he's asking without feeling bad about it? Can you tell him you want to pay a tenth of what he's asking without feeling bad about it? Because you're going to have that conversation more than once. Somebody called today who wanted If anyone's looking for a 3-family on Rockdale and Avondale for 200 grand, I gotta sell it. I would give you $1 a year for 200,000 years. Can you fully implement an exit strategy? And I mean, find the deal, negotiate the deal, know what's paid for the deal, put the deal under contract, close the deal, do whatever needs to be done with the deal, make money. Can you fully implement at least one exit strategy from end to end? Because if you can't do that, you need more education. And can you competently describe at least one form of non-bank bank financing to a seller and an attorney? Can you explain subject to or owner-held mortgage or land contract or lease option? Some of you can. All right, guys, you all have one of these? It says fundamentals of making money in real estate. This is a 2-day class that I teach here in Cincinnati about every other year. It's formerly called Real Estate 101 for those of you who remember back that far. It is exactly what it says it is. It is a class that teaches you these fundamentals. Why does real estate work? Why do sellers do what they do? How do I find the value of properties? It is not about any particular kind of investing. It's not meant to turn you into a landlord or turn you into a wholesaler. It is meant to give you the fundamental skills that you have to do any real estate deal. I am telling you, I've been in the business for 25 years now. I still use every one of these skills every day. This is not something that you need to know as a beginner and then later on you won't have to do it anymore. You're going to use these every single day. You have 2 chances to attend it this year. Once here in Cincinnati on January 30th and 31st, and once in Columbus on February 27th and 28th. And I will then teach it again in 2018. So you might want to consider signing up for this. REIA members get $300 off. It's $997 for non-members, $1297 for a couple. It's $697 for one, $997 for two if you are a REIA member. If you had trouble answering any of these questions, this one weekend will solve that for you. And it also comes with a great big giant, where's Matt? It comes with a great big giant, oh here it is, manual and forms and contracts. You're new to the business, you don't have purchase agreements, you don't have leases, lease options, land contracts, mortgages, notes. That's there as well. We're going to record the class and we'll give you a copy of the recordings if you sign up before the cutoff date, which I believe is next week sometime. So please consider doing that. It's got a 100% money back guarantee. You can come both days, and if you don't think it was worth twice what you paid for it, tell me, return your course materials, and give you your money back. It is that good. Started a lot of people on the real estate investing path here at REIA. So, develop personal ability. I mean, obviously join REIA. I mean, that's a lot of what REIA is about is education, right? 9 meetings every month that you can attend for free. 9 meetings a month, plus the 8 weekend workshops, which are not very expensive in the big scheme of things for REIA members. If you need to accelerate this, REIA has a program called Express Success. You also have a flyer for that, I believe. It's in color. It says green cover. Has a program called Express Success that we open up to new members every year. It is a series of 26 weekly webinars. They happen on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. They are on these fundamental skills. We get to break them down and spend an hour to an hour and a half on each one, an hour and a half on how to do direct mail marketing, how to work with real estate agents, how to do subject to deals, owner finance deals, etc. The program is a year-long program, so each class you get to take twice. At the end of the class, there is question and answer, live question and answer. So if you have anything you need to deal with, that's a good time to deal with it. It also includes all of those Saturday meetings free. All of the Saturday meetings for the entire year, except for the George Antone class, That one's half price. Free. So Jim's class, free. Apartment class, free. Creative finance class, free. Asset protection class, free. Everything is free. $9.97 for one person to join, or $12.97 with a spouse or partner. That's for members. You have to be a member in order to even join. So let's talk about social motivation. Man, this was a tough one. And you got to be really honest with yourself, and it's hard to be honest with yourself about this. How many of you have people that you hang around with regularly that fall more into the category of accomplices than friends? They don't really encourage you to do the things that are going to lead to your goals. They encourage you to go out and do fun stuff that they want to do. Not that there's anything wrong with fun stuff. Do your loved ones all really want to see you succeed, or are there some of them that kind of want to see you stay the same? You know how you can tell the difference, right? When you say, hey, my New Year's resolution is I will be a millionaire in 10 years, and they say, you can't do that. That's ridiculous. Nobody does that. What'd you get suckered into? What are they really saying? They're really saying don't change, right? Because you realize that you guys are seriously unusual in American society today. The idea that you want to be able to take care of yourself financially, not depend on a job, not depend on a boss, not depend on the Social Security system to take care of you when you're ready to retire, that is not the way most people think. And when you start thinking differently than that, it scares some of your friends and loved ones because they think that you're gonna get better than them. And then you're not going to want to hang around with them because you're going to want to hang around with all of your rich friends. Which honestly is probably true. Let's face it. Social motivation comes from hanging out with people intentionally who have a mindset similar to yours, who are going to encourage you, who are going to motivate you. One thing that you need to be very careful about doing, I learned this about 10 years ago, do not share your financial goals with people who you know are going to be negative about it. If your mom is, dyed in the wool, you should have a union job and retire when you're 65 type of person, don't tell her that you intend to quit your job by the time you're 45 and live off your passive income. That's just not a good plan, because she's not going to be positive about it. And you know it. Participate in a mastermind group. This is one of the most powerful things that you can do to keep yourself encouraged and motivated and accountable. Accountable. One of the jobs of your mastermind group is to call you on the carpet when you said, I'm going to do this before our next meeting, and then you didn't do it. And in our business, the only people that are calling the carpet is ourselves, and we're not, we don't tend to do a good job with that. Or the people that are our financial friends in our mastermind groups. Make friends here. Make friends here. They're your financial friends. They're different than your friends from high school because there's a specific goal that you both have. This is not hidden. This is open. We want to do business together. We want to see how we can, you can buy something I have, I can buy something you have, maybe I can finance something you have. We're going to make money together. And if there's no deal we can do together, we're still going to help each other as much as we can in deals, because we believe the pie is not of a limited size. That whole idea, that's a ridiculous idea, that there's only a limited amount of money in the world, and so if somebody else gets more, you get less. That's like saying, hey Jeff, if you lose 50 pounds, then there's no 50 pounds for me to lose. That's crazy. That's crazy. It is very, very difficult to get past people talking in your ear saying you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. I mean, you may feel like you're really strong, you've got a really strong strong personality and you're going to overcome them, but man, they are a lot more tenacious than you are, so probably they are going to overcome you. So, our successful investor went to every group meeting for the first couple of months. They met some great people, joined the mastermind group. And this gal over here kept hanging out with her broke friends. They kept making fun of her for even trying, and she eventually was like, yeah, you're right, it's dumb, I can't believe I even thought about that. Attend the meetings. Having a REIA membership does not confer some social motivation upon you magically while you sit at home. You actually have to come here and, may I say, talk to people. It also does not help you to come in at 5:30 and sit in that chair and just look at the screen and wait for somebody to show up in the front of the room. You actually have to talk to people. You're going to find that most of the folks in this room are they're very happy to talk to you. They're very willing to share. They're anxious to meet financial friends. So even if you don't consider yourself a good networker, make yourself do it anyway because that's how you're going to make these friends.